I'm Mark Perreault from Norfolk, and I'm on the board of the Citizens for Riverview Farm Park. I've been involved in several park advocacy efforts, two in Norfolk. We were successful in obtaining Plum Point Park on the Elizabeth River and Bay Oaks Park in the Ocean View section. Both of those areas had been targeted for real estate development, new homes, high-rise in the case of Plum Point Park for doctors, and through a long, persistent citizen advocacy, they're both parks today, including the Elizabeth River Trail, which is a linear park adjacent to Plum Point Park. And the Bay Oaks effort took a trip to the Virginia Supreme Court to be successful. I was also involved with the establishment of the Fort Monroe National Monument, where originally 2,500 new homes were planned. We've got that down now to about 0 and massive public open space. I only want to say about that is that when you go to your political leaders, they work for you. You have every right to demand that they respond to what you want, and you have to be persistent and say it over and over again. The developers are doing this every single day. They're on the phone using every political leverage point they have to get their way, and you as citizens have to be willing to be just as persistent, just as tough, and just as adamant about your vision. It's more important than theirs, and being shy about it is not the way to go. I only had really one point to add to what the previous speakers have made. It's a narrow one, but I think it's a good one to keep in mind. You ought to care about this 58 acres for the reasons the professor cited as part of our world's environment. We don't have enough green space. I think there's a writer named E.O. Wilson who says that if the human species is to survive, we need to set aside 1/2 of the land area in the world as wilderness. We're not doing anywhere close to that, obviously not in Newport News. But even if you don't care about any of that, even if you're not interested in the environment and are only interested in one thing, the economic growth and prosperity of the city of Newport News, I would still submit to you that you should want this land to be public open space. The Trust for Public Land did a study back in 2008 of the Hampton Roads area, comparing it to other waterfront metropolitan areas around the country. They compared it to Boston, New York, the Bay Area, and a couple others. And they found that Hampton Roads, in terms of public open space in general, was dead last among the cities they looked at. And when they looked at the shoreline, it was even further behind. We have turned almost all our shoreline and devoted it to industry, homes, the military, the ports. Very little has been reserved for the public as open space. And where you have it, the Trust for Public Land said if you care about the economic prosperity of the region, you ought to be pushing for as much public open space along the water as you possibly can get. And certainly as we look around the country today at the most successful metropolitan region, they're no longer the ones that develop every square inch of the property and build themselves around the automobile. It's increasingly places like Minneapolis, Seattle, Denver, Boston, New York, Washington, places where there's a large public component of open space, green space, and of course, alternative transit. And the kind of jobs you want to attract here are no longer steel mills, manufacturing, heavy manufacturing, where the only thing that matters is access to transportation, raw materials and such. You have to attract people, you have to pack knowledge-based industries, and people, particularly young people, are looking for something else besides massive suburban sprawl. They're looking for parks, open space, urban areas where they can walk and socialize with others. We're benefiting tremendously in downtown Norfolk from what little we've done there, which is significant but not as much, with the beginning of a rail transit system, the open space downtown, and the dense urban living. And we're having having a boom like I would never have believed possible 10 or 20 years ago. I submit to you that this Riverview Farm Park needs to be kept as open space and not developed as suburban development, because that isn't what people want. And I submit to you, as a city, you ought to press hard, not only for keeping this as open space, but to wiser development patterns around the city that are more likely to lead to long-term success. Thank you.